All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 250. That's a big number. So, today, um, I just saw a video where people were complaining about who's he what's were complaining about Silksong. For anyone who doesn't know, there was a video game came out a little while ago named Hollow Knight. It's a Metroidvania where you play a bug that is adorable. And the game itself, first of all, is a very fun game. But beyond that, so much of the game is just phenomenally well made. Like, the sound design is brilliant. The art direction is brilliant. Things like the ambient music that plays when you go into different areas works so incredibly well to really get you into the mindset of whatever is supposed to be going on in that particular area. And something that they use exceptionally well is a lack of music. There will be certain areas where the music just stops and all you have is ambience. And it's just everything about the game is beautiful and brilliant. And it nearly redefined the Metroidvania genre. Like, it's just absolutely brilliant. Well, like 7 or 8 years ago, we got an announcement for a sequel called Hollow Knight Silksong. In it, you play a character that shows up in the original game that I won't spoil anything about their appearance, but they do show up actually really early in the game. I actually just started replaying Hollow Knight recently because money, and we're about to get to that in a second here. But so this sequel you get to play as this different character, and as soon as it was announced, it became massive. I know up until recently, it was the #1 most wishlisted game on Steam. But the thing about it was we almost never heard anything about it. Like I said, it was talked about like 8 years ago. We heard nothing for years, and then we get another like poster or a teaser post or something, and then nothing for years. And then 2 weeks ago, a little over, I guess, we got an announcement that basically gave us the first like really good gameplay trailer for it. Which is an important thing for video games, because until you get a gameplay trailer, a video game is literally nothing. Because we've seen brilliant proof of concept trailers and teaser trailers and cinematic trailers where you're like, oh my god, this game looks amazing. And then the actual gameplay trailer drops and you go, oh, so that's what this is. Ooh. So people are really excited about that, and then at the very tail end, they go, by the way, it's going to be available in 2 weeks. And that blew up the internet. Like, absolutely crazy nonsense. So fast forward 2 weeks, the game launches, and it literally crashes every online game front. The Nintendo Store crashed. PSN, PlayStation Store, crashed. Not completely, but the actual page where you could order Silksong was just not working. Steam crashed. Everywhere, Xbox Store crashed. Or Microsoft Store, whatever it's called, crashed. Anywhere you could get this game, the demand for this game was so incredibly high that the servers couldn't take it. So many people wanted this game. It broke records for how quickly it sold. And the final nail in the coffin. Right now, your average AAA game runs about $70. If it's a cheap AAA game, it might still go for $60. And if it's a real big AAA game, it might go up to $80. Hollow Knight Silksong, the most wishlisted game on Steam. The game that crashed every storefront. You want to know what the price is right now? $20. Yes. You can't get early access to an in-development game for $20. For an unfinished game, you can't pay $20 to play it. This is a complete game that is, again, the most wishlisted game on Steam that's only costing $20. And it sent ripples through the gaming industry. One of my favorite articles I read, I think it's from Eurogamer. There is a subreddit that I assume, based on the name, is entirely about appreciation for sailing the high seas, if you know what I mean. So this subreddit, which shall remain nameless, involves lots of people that really, really like a certain Johnny Depp film. That's gotta be it. That's definitely it and not anything else. So now that you know what I'm talking about, or a certain Johnny Depp film series. So now, and a ride at Walt Disney World. So now that you know what I'm talking about, this article talked about how the game itself was cracked within 15 minutes of it launching. If anyone's unfamiliar with the term cracked, effectively that means that somebody has taken the game and gotten past whatever digital rights management or security software is built into it, so that they can basically just upload it somewhere and anyone can have access to it. So 15 minutes. And for anyone going, oh man, if they only had a security version. No, actually, it's not that crazy. 15 minutes is still impressive, but again, like Metroid Dread was cracked before it launched. Cracked so much to the point where one of the lead emulators that doesn't exist anymore, specifically because they did this, put out an update on launch day specifically designed to allow you to play the newly cracked game. So the idea that it was cracked really fast is not the news. The news was somebody announced on there, hey, the game is cracked. And the response from this seafaring fan site or fan subreddit was, we probably really shouldn't take this one. Like, the devs are really awesome, and they have done everything they possibly can to be, right with the fans. Like, according to this post, I can't be 100% sure this is true because I didn't do it, but originally Hollow Knight was kickstarted. And according to this post, all the original Kickstarter backers got Silksong for free. Now, again, I cannot confirm that. That is just what a random person on the internet said, so take that with a grain of salt. But the people on this post believed it. In addition to that, again, the game's only $20. They basically just talk about how, hey, yeah, these guys are really awesome, and there's 3 of them. This isn't the big middle finger to capitalism that you think it is. Maybe we shouldn't be taking this one. And again, this is an entire subreddit that is dedicated to the joys of sea life. And so all these people support that lifestyle, let's say. And yet the comments are overwhelmingly, nah, you're right, dude. If you've got the money, you should really buy the game. It's not fair. These guys are super awesome. This is a game that is so good that people whose entire purpose is to just take things that they want without paying for them goes, nah, we probably shouldn't this time, guys. It has broken the industry. So There is a very, very small but remarkably vocal minority that has decided that what the Silksong developers have done is horrible, is an affront to indie games in general, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Specifically, they claim that by not announcing the launch date early enough, they screwed over all of these indie devs, because something that has been happening is a bunch of games that were originally going to be released last week changed their release schedule. Some of them by only a few weeks, some of them by 6 to 8 months or more. Um, and I'm going to let you guys know right now. I know of one game specifically that said, yeah, because of Silksong, we're going to release next, like, June. It's like, no, it's not because of Silksong. It's because you have a bad, unfinished game and you're using it as a scapegoat. Again, for anyone that doesn't know, I actually do have a degree. I have my official title, degree of my degree, is Bachelor of Science in Business Marketing Management. And effectively what my degree is actually kind of a combination degree. It is part marketing degree, part business management, with an emphasis in project management. So that's a lot of words to basically say I understand marketing and I understand business. Like, those are the two things that my degree encompasses. And before I got my degree, I had about a decade of experience specifically in retail management and sales, which is an aspect of marketing. And I kind of taught myself some marketing as I worked in sales, because I had to understand the different ads that we would use and stuff like that. Like, all that stuff was really important, especially once I started running sales. So, from a business and specifically marketing perspective, I found it flabbergasting that they would only allow for 2 weeks of effectively marketing hype for their game. Again, I have somewhat successfully run small marketing campaigns for things like, good example, when I first got contacted by Zelda Universe. Sorry, it's very dry in my room. When I first got contacted by Zelda Universe to run a TTRPG for them, we went through an audition process to get our cast. I went and I created the world. I adapted the system to what we were going to be doing. And I actually worked with a couple other people to create, like, trailers for it. And I was actually, because Zelda Universe could not have cared less about this one show. Like, they were launching a Twitch channel. They had an entire website that they ran. They did a lot of other things. This one tiny show that I believe was kind of an afterthought. That was really just kind of a passion project for my buddy Elias, who was running the Twitch channel at that point. I don't think they really cared. And so they had someone that did marketing for them. I did not talk to them in any way, shape, or form. I was basically given carte blanche to run the marketing myself. And so I designed this marketing plan, which were basically, we had 4 players that were going to be playing. And so my plan was the team was going to be at, I think, PAX West, and they had a panel there. And so somebody else, I had nothing to do with this, somebody else made up a trailer, and I go, well, let's announce it at PAX West. And I don't even think that was my decision. I think that might have been Elias. But anyway, and then my idea was, okay, and then every week after that, we will release a new character trailer as a way to kind of build up hype. And so the marketing plan for the first TTRPG campaign that I ran for Zelda Universe was effectively a 5-week marketing plan. We would launch the initial teaser trailer at PAX West at a panel, which was really, really cool. And then we would release one trailer a week until we launched the game. And guess what, guys? Not only did it work remarkably well, we had the most viewers of any show on the Twitch channel by an order of magnitude. It was incredibly successful. And I attributed that entirely to me because I am arrogant. Thank you, phone. So again, this was something kind of small, and we gave it a 5-week marketing push, and it worked exceptionally well for what it was. Silksong doing 2 weeks of marketing, and that 2 weeks of marketing was launching one gameplay trailer with a date, and that's it, is nonsense. Again, from the marketing side of my brain, to me that seems like an absolute failure of their marketing department. You want to know why? Because they don't have a marketing department. There are, as far as I can tell, Team Cherry, who made the game, is 3 people. They have someone that writes the code, someone that does the art, and then a third person that I can't remember what they do, but I would assume it probably has something to do with the story. You notice none of those 3 people mentioned marketing in their title in any way, shape, or form. They don't have a marketing team, and to be blunt, they don't need one. As much as, again, were they to approach me before Silksong came out, they were to approach me like a year ago and go, hey, we got this game, it's pretty, like, there's a lot of hype about it, what should we do? I probably would have done something somewhat similar to what I did for Realms. It's like, okay, well, first let's have a teaser trailer to get people excited, and then we slow drip them information. Let's do a character reveal trailer for the actual character that you're playing. That just gives them a little bit of insight, probably rehashes some stuff from the original game along with a little bit of footage. And then we'll do like we can do like a little cinematic trailer. You guys have your own in-house artist. Do a little cinematic trailer to get them even more. Then we'll drop a gameplay trailer. And we'll chop that gameplay trailer up into a bunch of different shorts. We'll specifically create it so that it shows off a bunch of different aspects of the gameplay. And then after we put that out, we'll chop it up into a bunch of different shorts. And we will put it on TikTok. We'll put it on YouTube. We'll put it on Instagram. We will just, anywhere they can for that short form content, with a link in that short directly to the Buy Me page. Because that's a really essential part of marketing in general, is what's referred to as a call to action. Basically, if you get people excited and then you don't tell them to do something with that excitement, that can actually ruin all the marketing that you've done. You have to have a call to action. And so that's probably what I would have done. And again, the reason I would have done that is a very common thing. Like, this is not breaking the mold. Like, I am not this ingenious marketing expert that constantly is reshaping what we believe marketing to be. Nope. I just know what works. And that is a tried and true method. If you look at a lot of other video games, they do the exact same thing. Probably with my background, I probably would have also suggested, you know what else we could do? Let's contact Critical Role, Dimension 20, High Rollers, anyone that runs TTRPGs, and let's see if we can get a sponsored Silksong TTRPG out. Because that, depending on who we can get, that will be a massive, massive deal. And it is hyper effective in getting people to buy video games because a bunch of the people, like the vast majority of the people that are watching things like Critical Role, also play video games. And we know that a lot of these people are fans of the game because they've talked about it. So we could probably get a pretty simple method of doing this. And then in addition to that, you always have the things like you send out review copies and other stuff like that. Like, it's more than just putting videos out. Like, there's a whole thing. But that's probably what I would have recommended it to them. They did none of that. There were no review copies sent out. There are no early review copies sent out, so you could have all this great press. They did have a demo at, I think it was PAX West or Gen Con, one of them, that people could play. That was all the marketing that existed, was this single demo, and then the video that said, hey, 2 weeks. And it's one of the fastest selling games of all time. It is incredibly successful. And again, a lot of it has to do with, it was the most wishlisted game on Steam. They had already technically been marketing it for 8 years. They just weren't doing traditional marketing. They were doing entirely word of mouth. And anyone that's actually worked in marketing knows word of mouth marketing is not a marketing plan. Yes, it is really, really successful. Word of mouth marketing is hyper successful, but you have literally almost no control over it, because if you do try to kind of force your product into a word of mouth marketing campaign where people just tell their friends about it, it doesn't work. It feels artificial. True word of mouth marketing only works when people love your product so much that they feel the need to tell all their friends. It's the only way that it works. So they successfully used word of mouth marketing. And then the big kicker, and this is one of the other things that people are getting upset about, is that $20 price tag, which again, from a business perspective specifically, and a marketing perspective, fun fact for anyone that doesn't know, pricing for a product is a marketing decision. It is not a manufacturing decision. A lot of people incorrectly assume that when you are pricing something, you are pricing it based on, well, it cost me this much money, therefore I have to sell it at this. That's not how pricing works in business. Pricing is part of your marketing strategy. It's specifically called pricing strategy. And you choose the price based on how you want people to view your product compared to the rest of the market. You first start out by figuring out who your competition is, what your market is. And then you look at similar products in the market that people are going to inevitably compare your game or your product to. And then you choose your price point based on how you want people to compare you to the rest of the market. You can go with a pricing model called economy pricing, which is basically you undercut most, if not all, of the market, and then the rest of your marketing is all about value. Hey, you could spend double the price on this thing, or you could get a much better value by buying our product, which is just as good as theirs, but at a much better price for you. At the other end of the spectrum, you have what's called premium pricing, which is where you price it towards the upper end of the spectrum in your market, and you market it as this is a super high quality product. Yes, you can pay half the cost to get something, but you're going to be getting half the quality. If you want something that is really good, this is our product, and you get what you pay for. You should be happy to pay this price because you are getting an extremely high quality product. And the value marketing will still kind of exist in there because you still do have to justify the higher price point. But the thing with a premium pricing strategy is you are trying to get people to associate your product with other really high quality products. The entire purpose of a premium marketing strategy is to make people think your product is of very high quality. The reason that this thing exists, there's this experiment that has been done hundreds of times. You can do it yourself if you would like. It's actually a remarkably simple experiment to run. And it's one of the hallmarks of an amazingly well-designed experiment is how easy it is to replicate. That used to be a key component in experimental design, was in order for an experiment to be considered sound and worth publishing data on, it had to be measurable. You had to have something that was quantifiable, that you could easily measure. It was just like, well, how do you feel? We can't really quantify feelings that well. We've gotten better at it. That's what psychology does all the time. But for the most part, they have to find a way to quantify things. If there's no quantifiable numerical number kind of thing, then it's not a good experiment. It's just feelings. Another really important aspect, it has to be documentable. It has to be something that I can read about as opposed to having to experience the experiment. Then the third part, it has to be repeatable. Because there's always a chance that you could be a fluke. There could be a variable that nobody knew existed that you didn't control for. That means all of your data is completely useless. And so it has to be repeatable. Now, that's a real problem in academia right now, is a lot of the experiments that are getting published are completely unrepeatable. Or what's even worse is people do repeat them and they get completely different numbers. And we just kind of ignore that because we like what the first experiment said. But that's the beauty of this experiment, is literally anybody can do it anytime you want. It's the easiest thing in the world. Basically, what you do is you get a group of people and you get a room. In the room, you got a bunch of different tables with items on them. Next to the items is a random collection of numbers. And that's the thing here. They have to be a random collection of numbers. And I don't mean like random collection of integers. So just like, 5 numbers in a row, the numbers themselves are completely randomized. And then what you do is you have the people come in and you go, we would like you to guess how much each product is worth. And then they go through and they fill out their stuff. Then you do it again with a different group of people, but you flip around the numbers. You change the numbers. But you have to remember which number was there for each group of people. So you do this a few times. What the experiment has shown time and time again is that if the numerical value of the random integers next to the item is higher, people assumed the product was worth more. Every single time. Our brains like to connect things. And that's the thing about the experiment. You never tell the people doing the experiment what the numbers mean. The only information they are given is there's going to be a number of items in this room. All we want you to do, estimate what you think their value is. Estimate you think how expensive they are. And that's all you say. You never mention the numbers. They're just there. If they ask, what do these cards mean? You go, I cannot answer any questions. You don't acknowledge them. You don't do anything. But just the fact that there are numbers there, and in our brain, bigger number means more expensive, and more expensive means higher quality, then people just naturally assume. And so that's why premium pricing works, simply by putting a bigger number on it, even though that bigger number means that the people have to pay more for it. Just by having a bigger number there, the people think it is of higher value. It's one of the reasons why for a while we had products like the Quick Chopper 3000. This is the Quick Chopper 5000. This is the Quick Chopper 1 million. Because people associate bigger numbers with value. It's just how it works. So anyway, going back to this, a lot of people, again, first they got upset because like, well, you didn't give, all these devs probably never would have put their release date the same week as Silksong. Like, you screwed over all these indie devs, and that's just horrible. You should feel ashamed. Nope. Not in any way, shape, or form. They created a game. They released the game. They have no obligation to all the other indie devs in any way, shape, or form. But from a marketing perspective, how different would have things been had they announced a month previous, 6 months previous? Like your regular game, you normally have bare minimum. You normally have, I don't know, minimum of 3 to 6 months between this is when it's coming out and this is when you can actually purchase it. You know, the announcement to actual purchase day, somewhere between 3 to 6 months. And that is kind of essential because it gives time, especially if it's an expensive product, it gives your customer base time to figure out if they value it enough to pay that amount and to actually have the money available for it. And it gives you that much time to create value for it. You keep releasing more trailers. You start getting review copies out there. You do demos and things like that to get people really, really hyped up for it. It's one of the reasons why Diablo 4 was as successful as it was, because Blizzard let a bunch of people play the first act of the game, which is by far the best act of the game. The game falls off hard after Act 1. Story-wise, gameplay, like it's gotten better. Don't get me wrong. Like the current version of Diablo 4 is better than the initial one, but it ain't great. And when it first launched, it was just not fun. And I bought it on launch. But again, they created all this value and people were more than happy to pay the money for it. It's like, well, this is an amazing thing. Silksong didn't do that. They just said, hey, here's a gameplay trailer. You can get it in 2 weeks. And again, it sold like wildfire. But the marketing person in me and the business person in me wonders how much bigger would it have been if they had followed a more traditional marketing structure. And then the price point thing, and this is the other thing that people are getting upset about, is like, well, it's not fair. Like, this is an amazing game and it only costs $20. There are all these other devs that cannot afford to sell a game for $20. Like, this is going to screw all of them over because they are just ruining it for everyone. And this is actually something that I don't personally have experience with, but I know people that have experience with it. Which is basically the idea of anytime you create something from scratch where one of your competitors is big. Whether you're talking about like art, like this is really, really common in art in general. Like someone will go, hey, I want to commission you to make, a portrait of my D&D character. And they'll be like, okay, what kind of things you wanting? Well, this is what I want, and it's this really cool full body shot where they're slaying an ogre, because in the first big fight we had in the campaign, my character got the killing blow on the ogre, and it really kind of defined the character. Like a lot of things that happened in that fight just kept coming up. So I want them like, with both of their swords out, stabbing this ogre, in the eye, because that's how we did it. And they go, okay, well, it's 2 figures, full body, full color. That's going to run you like $300 or $400. I don't know what pricing for art is now. I know at one point a full body commission was in the neighborhood between $150 and $300. I would assume it's gotten more expensive since then, but I don't know. And people go, oh my God, like, how could you do that? Like, I could, and especially before AI, people like, I literally, like, you've sold out. It's like, no, it's literally that expensive. If they sold like full body character art for like $60, and that's one of the arguments that goes like, I could go to like Emerald City Comic Con and get a really cool art print for like $40. And I'm not even asking for a full print of it. I just want a digital copy. So you don't even have to print it. That's not how it works. Like, creating art like that, especially something as complicated as what that person was describing, takes a lot of time. And in addition to the actual time it takes to make it, it also has opportunity cost. when they take your commission, they have to turn down a bunch of other commissions when you're asking them to make something this big. In the same amount of time that they could make you this really, really nice piece of art, they could probably put out 3 or 4 like busts out or just headshots of characters because they're significantly less complex. So I totally get the idea of it's not fair when somebody undercuts the market. At the same time, this isn't some massive company that is trying to like loss lead. If you're not familiar with the term, loss leading is effectively where a company prices something either at cost or just below cost because it will get people into the building to buy other higher profit margin items. A really good example of loss leading is anytime a computer goes on sale at any brick and mortar store. I used to work for an office supply franchise thing, international. I didn't work internationally. I worked at a single store, or actually quite a few different stores because I moved around a lot. But I moved around a lot because I was really good at what I did. And so they would send me to stores that needed to be fixed. And I would fix them very, very well. I actually enjoyed doing that too. But anyway, any computer that was ever on sale cost us money. It cost us more money to purchase it than the price we would sell it at. And in the, God, I can't remember how long I worked there. I don't know. In the entire time I worked there, which was probably like 5-ish, 6-ish years easily. And that was where the majority of my retail management experience came from. So it had to be close to 6, maybe even 7 years that I was there. I think I sold maybe 3 computers at full price. Maybe. Everyone always bought them at a discount because they're expensive. And a 10% discount on a $1,000 laptop is $100. That's a nice chunk of change to save. And we would have 20 and 30 and 40% discounts in some of these machines, so you could save a decent chunk of change. But if you just sold the computer, you lost money. But these computers needed other things. They needed things like mice and keyboards. They would need monitors. They would need software. All of those you actually make money on. And you won't sell them if they don't have a computer specifically. So those are what are referred to as loss leaders. And it's actually a very fine line because if a company is too large and they're actually selling something either at cost or especially if they are losing money on the sale, that can be considered monopolistic behavior, and it goes against the Taft-Hartley Act, which is it Taft-Hartley? I think so. No, Sherman Antitrust Act. Sorry, Taft-Hartley is completely separate. Sherman Antitrust Act, which is anti-monopoly legislation that's been revised many, many times, and recently Google got in trouble for fucking that over. But anyway, so. This is not some massive conglomeration that's trying to like loss lead into the market to kill their competitors. No, this is a 3-person dev team that created a phenomenally well-designed, well-created. As far as I can tell, I haven't played the damn thing yet. But everybody that's playing it, with a few rare exceptions, loves it to death. And they think it's the most amazing thing ever. And because it is, it's really impressive. But that brings me to the idea of, well, what if they'd done a more traditional thing? Could they have been more successful? And my personal theory is they couldn't have. And here's my thought process. So, people have been hyping this up for 7 or 8 years. There is a massive demand for this game already. That's a good thing. That the most basic version of economics is called a supply demand curve. It's extremely basic. You just look at how much of something that you have. You look at how many people want it, And then you can actually see on this very easy to read line what it should cost. Because if you go above the supply demand curve, you start to decrease demand because people don't want to pay that much. If you go below the supply demand curve, you start decreasing supply really, really fast because it's not able to meet the demand. The price point will actually artificially lower the demand to the point where you can have an equal medium where you can meet your demand. If you're under the supply demand curve, you actually aren't meeting demand, and that's when you have things like the Switch 2 being impossible to buy and things like that. So, my theory for this, because it was only $20, I think that is one of the reasons why it was successful as it was, because everybody knows what a game costs now, even for indie games. Everybody knows what games cost. Again, AAA titles are right now starting at $70 or $80. So most people that were planning on buying this game in their mind had already had a number that they were willing to pay. And my guess is that number was probably in the neighborhood of $40 to $50. Because this is an indie game, and if you actually look at the original Hollow Knight sold for really cheap as well. But that was a decade ago. And a lot has changed since then. And so I don't think anyone was expecting it to be to the $20. And so when they finally had that, because they didn't announce the price point till like a day or two before it actually launched. And once that happened, people saw in their mind $40 and then saw on the page $20. And effectively, their brain did the thing that happens with sales in general. It's the reason why most sale ads will not only tell you, oh, it's 50% off, they will also list the original price and the new price below it. Again, that idea of bigger numbers makes us think bigger value. Well, the bigger number is there, and it's showing us that it's a smaller number. So we're getting something that we associate with the bigger number, but we're paying the smaller number. Again, this has been highly studied pricing strategy. I had an entire section of a course just on pricing strategy. It's a big deal. Lots of psychologists have studied it. This is a real thing. It's the reason why ads are set up the way that they are and sales are set up the way that they are. So I think what happened is people thought $40, saw $20, and did the sale thing in their head. Oh my gosh, I am saving $20. I'm saving $30 on this. I need to get it right now because that is going to make me money. That's one of the things that sales language we use all the time is things like, you save $30. Like somehow this is making you money when in all actuality, you're spending money that you didn't spend before. But again, it's all psychology. You're saving $30. You're saving $50. You're saving $100. Even when I was talking about computer sales, I mentioned this. Yeah, you're saving $100. No, you're spending $900. You're not saving anything unless you were already going to buy it at $1,000 and now you're only buying it at $900. But that's not how most of us work. Most of us won't buy something until it is on sale. But in our brains, oh, we're saving this much money. So I think that is one of the reasons, not the only one, but I think that's one of the reasons why Silksong did as well as it did, and will probably continue to do well over the next few months, bare minimum, if not the next year or so. Because a lot of people, because of the lack of marketing, had come up with a value for this game in their head. And it just kind of gone, well, that's worth it for me. Here's another fun fact that I learned in business. People will always exchange something of lesser value for something of greater value. Every transaction in the history of the world is an exchange of something for lesser value for something of greater value on both sides. Both sides of the equation are giving away something that they think is of lesser value to get something that is of greater value to them. And when I first learned that, I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, because one person's getting an item and the other person's getting cash, and so somebody has to be getting something of lesser. No, it's literally how it works. In the idea of like buying a pizza, for the person buying the pizza, they have bodily needs. They need to eat and they want to eat that particular thing, and so they've made the decision that, you know what, this pizza for like $15, I think I would rather have this pizza than I would $15. And on the other side, the person making and selling the pizza is going, you know what, I really would rather have $15 than this pizza. And so both sides have something that they value less than the other person, and both sides have something that they value more than the other person. So in this instance, everyone had created value, that purchased it had created value for Silksong. They had gone, okay, it is worth this much to me. I would much rather have Silksong than I would have this much money in my bank account. And then the price came out, and I will guarantee it was lower than everybody had already created the value proposition in their head. And so now, not only were they being told, hey, this thing that you want, well, you don't actually have to pay how much you think it's worth. I'm going to let you pay less for that. And that created kind of a feeding frenzy thing. And I think it was do I think that the devs for Silksong Team Cherry, do I think that they're marketing geniuses? No, I don't think they know much about marketing at all. What they did here was not a marketing strategy. It was just what they wanted to do. I sincerely doubt profit margin was in their mind in any way, shape, or form. So this is not something that can be replicated by anyone but Team Cherry. It's the same thing for like Hogwarts Legacy. Unbelievably successful game. Broke records, was the best-selling game of all time for a long time. None of that was due to Portkey devs or Portkey Games, the people that developed the game. None of that was due to them. They had almost no control over it. It was entirely due to morons that made this massive, massive deal about the fact that they don't like J.K. Rowling, and therefore everything Harry Potter is evil, and they went on this giant tirade where they just made themselves look like crazy morons. They sold this game so incredibly well. It is not a marketing strategy that can ever be implemented by anyone. And I think the same thing is true about here. This was not a marketing strategy. This is not something that is replicable. It is just a freak accident, but I think everything worked perfectly for these devs, and I think they deserve it 100%. Again, everything I've seen thus far, I've tried to stay away from too many streams because I don't want to spoil myself for it, because I do want to play the damn game, and also I have a buddy that's definitely going to be playing it, and I want to watch them stream it and be excited when they stream it. So I may not even try to play the game until after my friend does. I think it's a great game, and I 100% think that these devs 100% deserve it to be as successful as physically possible, and it's going to be very, very successful. But I don't think any of this was like a decision on their part of what is going to make us the most money. This was just, we finally finished the damn game. These people have been waiting for 8 years. Let's just give it to them. Come on, guys. How much should we charge for it? Well, what? Hollow Knight's like $15? I mean, this is a better game. Like, we've spent... we learned all this stuff from Hollow Knight. I think... let's go $20? Does that sound good? Yeah, it sounds great. I think that's a good price for the game. Okay, it's $20. We can still make money off of that. And 100% they did. And that's another thing that's kind of interesting about this. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, these other devs, they can't afford to do it. Well, part of that is due to the fact that they are running their companies poorly. And I will say over and over and over and over and over again, I'm a huge supporter of indie devs and things like that, but the amount of extremely poorly run indie studios blows my mind. And again, it all comes back to the idea of running a business is very, very difficult. It is a unique set of skills, and it is vastly undervalued in the creative market in general. You know, the idea of selling out and all that stuff has basically made a lot of creatives hate the idea of learning how a business works and how a business runs, and learning things like pricing strategy, or marketing strategies or anything like that. They think that's evil. That's evil capitalism. It's not. It's how businesses work. And when businesses are run poorly, lots of people get screwed over. Just like what happened to Iron Mouse and all the people from, I can't even remember the company now. But yeah, that was a bunch of people that had no idea how to run a business, running a business, and then screwing over a lot of people. Like, yeah, they are horrible people for what they did, 100%. But what they did is not just hurting them, it is hurting a ton of completely innocent people. And not just the people that signed with the company. There are a lot of artists that created commissions and created models and stuff for these VTubers that never got paid. The Immunodeficiency Foundation lost out on $500,000 because a bunch of people that didn't understand how to run a business screwed up. So yes, I do 100% believe there are a lot of indie devs that make great games that are screwing over themselves because they refuse to learn how to run a business, or, here's the other crazy one, hire someone that knows how to run a business, because we are creatives. We don't need to run a business. If we create a good product, we will just get paid. It's not how it works. It's never how it works. So no, I don't think that Team Cherry has screwed over all these indie devs. What Team Cherry has done has shown that all of these exorbitantly bloated budgets that exist all the way from indie devs all the way up to AAA development companies are exactly that. They're over bloated. They could be streamlined significantly, not only to save costs, but to actually get out a better product. And we know that it's possible, because that's one of the other big arguments is like, well, you keep saying that, but it's not really possible. It is possible. These people did it. Now, again, they are one data point. You cannot, like, to use some math, you can't plot a line from a single point. Technically, that's a vector, but that's Euclidean geometry. We don't need to go into that. You need at least 2 data points to create a line. And the more data points you have, the more accurate your prediction is going to be, because you can do a process referred to as fitting a line to a regression, where you eventually will connect some of the dots, not all of them, because not everything will hit the line perfectly. And that you can actually use to predict what's going on. We have one single, technically, outlier here, but it is a real data point. And now that we know that it is possible, this is effectively a proof of concept. We can start looking at, okay, what is currently infecting the video game market that is causing this exorbitant rise in the cost of making video games? And this is not the only data point we have. It is the lowest data point we have. But Baldur's Gate 3 was another really great example of a game that did really, really well, sold below what the market was currently pricing games at, and was an exceptionally well done product. Now, Larian is not 3 dudes in a basement. Larian has, I want to say, either a little under or a little over 100 employees. They're technically right at the cusp of the break off between a small business and a large business. However, when you compare their dev team to something like Blizzard, where they have thousands of people working for them, there's a huge discrepancy. And the quality of the stuff that Blizzard's been putting out is vastly inferior to the stuff that Larian has been putting out. And Larian has been able to put out games on a similar development timetable. And again, their product better polished, better gameplay, better story, better everything for significantly less of an investment. And now we've got the low point. I sincerely doubt anyone's ever going to do it lower than Team Cherry here. Now we have the low point. 3 people spent 8 years, which is a very long development time. But if you factor in all the costs and everything of them making the game, it's going to be significantly less than Baldur's Gate 3. And yet they've still created a beautiful, nearly flawless game about bugs. We're now getting more data points that are pointing to the idea that the current way that we make games is wrong. And I said this a little bit when Baldur's Gate 3 came out. I think we've passed the threshold by a huge margin of what's referred to as diminishing returns. Basically, the idea of diminishing returns is every time you do the same thing, you get less of a value each time. The returns that you get on it are diminishing. And I think having 1,000 people work on a single video game doesn't actually improve the game at all, because each individual contribution is less and less and less to a high quality game, but creates more and more problems with miscommunication and bugs and other additional costs like salaries and taxes and all these other things, and administration. It's one of the reasons why schooling in general is as expensive as it is. Teachers are not really making that much more money than they did 30 or 40 years ago. However, the cost of running a school has exploded by multiple orders of magnitude. And the reason why is the number of administrators involved in the education process in the U.S. Has absolutely exploded to the point where the vast majority of people that work for a school district are in administrative positions and never interact with a student the entirety of the time that they work for a school district. And that's where the vast majority of our money is going. And I think the exact same thing is happening, or a similar thing is happening in the video game industry, is we have all of these people working on a game and they really don't need that many people. And because they have that many people all doing the same thing, they have to have all these additional administrators to kind of coordinate all the different teams, and then you have to make sure that each person is working on something different, and that each person is doing the right thing, and then this person will introduce bad code in one way because that's how coding works. Everybody's going to introduce bad code. It's coding, sorry. And this person's going to, and so now you have to have an entire new team to deal with all the fact that there's so many more people that are making bad things happen all at the same time. I think Silksong, theoretically, Silksong, in the same way that Baldur's Gate 3 was, could be a turning point in the industry. And I believe we're starting to see it. Big AAA developers are starting to realize that we don't need 1,000 programmers on this one game. It's not making things better. We don't need 100 writers to write the story for us because we're not telling good stories anymore. All of this stuff is just making the gaming industry worse. And Silksong's a perfect example of it. It's a phenomenal game, as far as I can tell. Again, I've not played the game, so I'm going entirely off of reviews. But it's a phenomenal game. It's at an amazing price. It is selling like hotcakes, and the developer themselves is making shit tons of money. Another really good example for one of the problems I see in the game dev market about that kind of ballooning cost. I can't remember who it was, but there was some dev that was complaining about some indie game that came out that had, oh, it was Expedition 33, another really good example of an amazing game that looks like a AAA published game that wasn't. It was a very, very small team. I don't think it was 3. I think it was like a couple dozen. But amazing, wonderful game that everybody loved. And there was this one game dev that's like, well, it's not fair. You know, that game is so successful, and yet all the profits from it is being split between this tiny group of people. You know, they should have hired, like, they have the money, they should have hired more programmers so that more people could take, could benefit from this amazing thing. That was their actual thought process. It's not fair that those people made something and they get to split the profits. They have enough money, they should have paid me. Like, I should have been a part of that, because I totally could have made that game, and so I should be able to get some of the money. And I think that is a kind of pervasive idea, because Silicon Valley is located in California, which is populated, California and Seattle, West Coast, and it is populated by a bunch of entitled people that believe that simply their existence is justification enough for people to give them money. I exist. Why don't I have the things that I want? I've actually got one of my players is born and raised California. And they've noticed this is the same thing. We were talking about like writers in general. And they said, yeah, one of the things I found, a lot of like my writing friends, they feel like just because they wrote something that people are obligated to watch it and turn it into something. If they wrote a script for a TV show, they have this entitlement like, well, I wrote this thing. Like, I did the hard part. Now all you guys have to do is turn it into a television show. I don't understand why you can't do this. I wrote this. Did you see how much work I put into this? That means that I deserve to be paid for my work. And this isn't a new kind of thing. It's just, in most other industries, because the same thing happens in retail. I had a lot of employees go, well, look how hard I worked. I deserve to be paid more because I work harder than that person. Yeah, but you may work harder, but the amount of value we get from your work is significantly lower. Yes, it takes you an hour to put up printers. And it looks like it's very, very difficult for you to do that, but I can do it in 10 minutes. And then in the remaining 15 minutes, I can sell 3 of those printers and create a lot more value, which is why I get paid more than you, because I am more valuable than you to the business. I make them more money. So no, the amount of work that you do does not matter. It's the amount of value you create. And simply working hard doesn't mean that you should be paid for it. In fact, if you're working harder than someone else in the business, either that person is bad at their job and is just not doing something, or, which is significantly more likely from my experience, you are bad at your job because other people have figured out how to do the same thing with less work. Work smarter, not harder. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thing, little thought experiment. Interested to hear from you guys. Is anyone here mad at the Team Cherry devs for screwing over the indie market? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, if you agree with me, yeah, this is super, super great. What are your thoughts on the idea of, yeah, the video games industry does have a bloat problem and an entitlement problem where there's far too many people that think they're entitled to a paycheck that just really aren't worth the paycheck? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's Elf Me Today, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye-bye.